So today let's talk about 5 reasons not to date Russian girls. As you probably understand, the title of the video is mostly created for grabbing your attention. I don't want in reality to discourage anyone. And also when I'm saying Russian girls, I'm mostly generalizing, and it can apply to the Ukrainian girls, Belarusian girls, Kazakhstan girls, in general, the whole post-Soviet Union space. We have pretty similar mentality from my experience. And another spoiler, of course, I will be generalizing brutally. I know that every girl is unique, every woman is unique and different, so I will be just sharing maybe qualities that you are more likely to find in Russian women, but doesn't mean that all of them are like that. I know that a lot of Western guys indeed actively looking to have the experience of having a Russian girlfriend because, well, they heard a lot of things that Russian girls are beautiful, they are nice, they really good material for having a family life probably. So if you are this person and let's imagine you even planning to go to one of the ex-Soviet country to look for Russian girlfriend. So what could you expect, and what problems, potential problems, you might find? Let's start discussing it. So the first point I want to mention, maybe it's not the most important one, but it's still important, and specifically it concerns girls from Russia or Belarus. And it is potential political differences. Why it is important? Well, politics as well as religion questions, they often constitute a very strong part of a person's identity. So if you have huge differences on these fronts, you might have real problems in your relationships. And if you are a person from the Western country, it's not unlikely that your political views will be quite different from what a Russian girl might have. Specifically, the questions concerning the war in Ukraine, vision of Putin, for example, of Stalin, things like that. Because, well, you should understand that we live in very different informational environments. So Western people, if we're mostly watching the mainstream media, we will hear repeatedly one certain narrative, and people in Russia will hear repeatedly the opposite narrative. So even if people consider themselves super independent thinkers, progressive, and blah blah blah, still we are influenced. Okay, so most of the women that you will find in Russia or Belarus will have very different view on what's going on, for example, in the war in Ukraine. And if this topic is very sensitive for you, that might be a problem, because from the Russian point of view, what the country is doing is totally justified, and to lesser or higher extent, the women in Russia is very likely will be, I'm not sure if supportive, very likely supportive of the policy of Russia, or at least less negative about this. Like, you should understand this, because they constantly exposed to different kind of arguments of why this war is going on, and it's totally different from what you most likely is hearing. Although, yeah, I know that there's more and more alternative voices and kind of pro-Russian voices in the West emerging, so depends on your views. Like, think about that. Political views, they are often, as I mentioned, as a religion, super hard to change. So if it's a matter of principles for you and you are super different on this front, well, things might not work as intended. The same about history. For example, for Russian people and ex-Soviet Union people, the Second World War, the Great Patriotic War, for them has a very special meaning. It's like very big thing, important thing. And most of people in Russia don't see Stalin in such a negative light like Western people do. Because I have noticed during my life here in Europe that it's often that Stalin in the media space almost somehow getting equaled to Hitler. Like, it's not uncommon to see an article or people on TV or on YouTube mentioning Hitler, Stalin as examples of whatever kind of bad stuff. So trying to create a narrative that is kind of similar type of evil, okay? And in Russia it's not perceived this way. Absolutely not. You might agree, disagree. I'm not sure how well you're informed on the history level. Like a lot of people in Russia realize and understand that sorry, Stalin really was a dictator, but they don't see him equal as a Stalin. Indeed, in Russia it's still a lot of respect, I would say, to Stalin. Like, people see him as a strong leader, and his repression is even partially kind of justified. And to be honest, I will tell you something that a lot of people in Russia would want the current government to really shoot and execute the corrupted people in the government like Stalin did in the previous times, okay? So, of course, they don't know what they wish for, but I'm just explaining you the mentality. So, Stalin is not viewed the same as Hitler. So, if you have these ideas, might not alienate with what you will find in Russia, what their women thinks, especially if we are talking about women of slightly older generation than, like, older than 40, for example. Maybe some younger ones will be closer to the mentality, and still probably not, because last 7 years, I think, Russia started to change the educational system in a more conservative, traditional ways. These super ultra patriotic and stuff like that. So probably modern Russian generations, the young girls, also won't be very Western minded. Not sure about that, but so keep this in mind. Another thing is that if you're planning to date a Russian woman, it is quite likely she might be slightly homophobic. Not because they are bad as people, it's just because how the culture is working in Russia. And I must admit, quite shamefully, that when I was in Russia in my late teens, early 20s, I also was finally slightly homophobic, I think. It's not like I was thinking bad about gay people, but when you live in the environment which is explicitly, harshly judging and showing their disgust to these people, you didn't know any better. So you're growing up thinking that that's how this should be, like, you know. So you don't question it until you start meeting in real life with these people, when you start to inform yourself, educate yourself, and then you get out of this bullshit mentality. But it's much harder to get out of the mentality if you are surrounded only by people who are homophobic, only by the media who are homophobic, you know. So I had chances because I had a privilege to be able to meet different people of this kind, to go out of the country and really educate myself and fully change my mind on the topic. But a lot of other girls, women, just they never have this opportunity, and maybe they are not curious to try and inform themselves. So it's very typical to be homophobic. So if this topic is important for you, again, you will have to try to educate your Russian partner about this, or it can be problematic, because I know even a lot of my very good friends and my best friend as well. She is such an amazing person, so sweet, just great. I love her. But we had a conversation with her like a couple of years ago, and some of her comments, they were clearly super homophobic. Not because she is bad, it's just because significant people in her life are very homophobic, and she's absorbing their arguments, and that's the only thing that she knows. Of course, I had a lot of conversations with her, and I hope maybe it influenced and changed something in her opinion. But do I love her less because of this? Of course not. So it's just something you should know, this cultural thing that was, by the way, slowly improving in Russia like 15 years ago. It was really more and more open movement, the LGBTQ and stuff like that. But now with the war and open confrontation between Russia and the West, it's much worse. So yeah, that's the point. I know also that a lot of Western guys are looking for a Russian girlfriend or even Russian wife, because they heard that Russian women are more submissive, and that they see a man in a relationship or in the family like the more authoritative figure. And that is true in a lot of cases, probably in the most of cases. But it doesn't come without a price. So if you expect to find this kind of girl, you also should expect that Russian women will have a very high expectation from a man. Okay, so it's not like you will receive all of these benefits of submissive, super, like a girl who will be just looking at you amazed and worshipping you or something like this, without really giving something in return. Because yes, Russia is still much more sexist than West, and women in general, well, definitely not as feminist as in Europe or the US. But you should know that most of them will expect a lot of things from you. For example, I would say that most of girls and women in Russia would expect for you to pay on dates. It's kind of by default. As well as Russian men automatically assume that if they invite a girl on a date, they will pay. Okay, so if you think like it's, well, 50-50 or something like this, no. A lot of girls seeing that if you offer them to split the bill, they will be like no, not interesting material for me, because they will see you as stingy, as a not noble guy. It's like, what the hell, like, he expected me to pay for this? Like, no. She might be ready to be all of this pretty nice, beautiful for you, but you have to pay for it. Okay, so of course it's not universal. Not every girl is like that, whatever. I was always also not like that, but it's more of an exception. So if you're ready for it, perfect. But also, most of women will expect for you to provide after the dating period. So she will expect of you to have a really good job, being able to cover her financial needs. And believe me, Russian girls, they have a lot of financial needs, for example, to maintain the beauty, cosmetics, clothes, whatever kind of stuff. It's maybe not always, but it's quite highly likely that she will expect from you to provide this and to pay from your pocket for her stuff. It's like often in Russia we have even a saying, a lot of women assume that my husband's salary is our salary and my salary is mine because well, usually women's salary in Russia are lower. That's why she's just buying her little things with it, and man is expected to have much higher and provide for all of the couple needs, family needs, and things like that. So it will be quite a pressure on you. If you are looking more for the equal partnership, of course you can find also a Russian girlfriend who will be just totally fine with this, but it will be a bit harder if you're looking for it. So if you want to have a lot of options and choices in Russia, you'd better be ready to provide. And another thing that maybe it's not super universal, but women in Russia expect from a guy to be able to fix things around the house. I know a lot of modern guys in Europe, they don't really know how to do stuff, how to fix the water tubes, whatever things like that, because, well, I mean, there are professionals for this and I'm totally fine with this, but it's supposed often in Russia that a man should know how to do this stuff. Like, he's not supposed to cook, to clean, almost, unfortunately, but he's supposed to know this shit. So it might be a little bit of disappointment if you don't know how to do stuff. If you show yourself like helpless in this situation, that you need to fix some shit with electricity or things like that. And another point is very not typical of to expect from Western guys, from my experience, but in Russia a girl would expect, most likely that she would expect for her man to defend her in all kind of situations. I'm not even talking about like kick someone's asses or slap someone's faces, but to actively protect her in if someone made some comment that might be slightly irrespectful or something. It's like expected from a guy that he will be actively protecting, because like, well, macho alpha, whatever thing, and not being afraid to have a conflict, to defend his woman, his girlfriend. I know here in the West it's more about avoiding conflicts, right? About finding nice way to communicate and not being confrontational. In Russia, it's often, not always, but often in the contrary. You will not be respected if you are afraid to say something to a person who somehow disrespected your girl. And you are even, in extreme cases, expected to have a fight with this person. Even if you after that will be left with a bloody face, but you will be respected for this. So if you don't have this semi-aggressive macho alpha attitude, always being super confident and showing your readiness to defend your woman at any moment, you might be perceived as a kind of a weak man, and you might be less attractive in their eyes. Of course, it's not universal for all of the women, but it's kind of a thing there in Russia, and not a thing here in Europe or in the West in general, I think. Another reason that might make you to reconsider your desire to meet Russian women is that it takes them forever to get ready to get out of the flat to go out for a dinner or someplace. I know Russian girls, they have this kind of fame of being very beautiful, well, at least from what other people are telling me, that kind of impression they have from Russians. But to be beautiful, having this makeup, clothes, well done hair and stuff, it's also not comes like for free. It's not like they wake up in the morning and looking this way. It's a lot of fucking work. And it's true that a lot of Russian women really used to do this work, but it takes time. They are paying a lot of attention to this, using all of these cosmetics, all of these special things to straighten their hair or other stuff, which I see, at least here in Europe, is so not typical for at least Spanish girls, and I think in general other European girls which I met in school here. They don't spend that much time on this, and a lot of Russian girls, yes. And it's not only that you will have to wait till she's ready to go out, and it might be annoying, but also money-wise. I mean, if you are in a serious relationship, as I told previously, she might expect you to cover a lot of expenses. And cosmetics, they are expensive, especially the good quality ones, so it depends what kind of girl you have. Well, it's another thing which you should budget in. And also related moment is that a lot of Russian girls are into plastic surgery. I know it's also a thing for certain states in the United States, but it's absolutely not a thing for average girl in Europe, or at least way less normal girls are into this stuff, or women are into this stuff here in Europe. Indeed, I don't know any of the local women that would use cosmetological procedures on a professional level, that would use Botox or other stuff. And I know a lot of women of different ages here. I know no one who do this. And in Russia, when I lived there, I knew girls from my early 20s who were using it on a regular basis, even who were using Botox stuff and some fillers from early 20s. Okay, so if depends what age range you're looking for, it will be probably even more. And this stuff is also expensive. You might also consider this. And if you are not so much into the plastic surgery phases, well, you might get a kind of a girl who in the prospect of 15 years will look a little bit like this Chucky doll. I mean, and it's very noticeable. When I'm going back to Russia for vacations, and I'm taking my husband's, it's always so obvious to him that we are in Russia, because the amount of women that you see with the inflated lips, inflated cheekbones are like, is big. It's just a lot of them. Here it's absolutely not like that. And for example, my husband, and I know a lot of other guys here, who absolutely don't like this kind of look. I mean, when you are young and you just do a little bit, it's not going to be that noticeable. But if you do this for a long period of time, it's almost inevitable that you will reach the point of this kind of inflated face that is not very attractive to a lot of people. It's not very attractive to my taste, and I know it's not very attractive to a lot of guys. So if you are not a fan of this kind of beauty, Well, just you have something to think about. Of course, not every girl in Russia is into this stuff, but a lot, believe me. And the next point that I'm going to be talking about, indeed, it might be even a plus for some guys, but not such a great thing for others. And it's basically that I would say that most of girls and women that you can find in Russia are very family oriented, which might be not such a bad thing for a lot of guys, but let me explain. Like, for example, in the West, a lot of women are very independent and they don't care if they get married or not, if they have kids or not. They just want to have a good, satisfactory life and have a partner which will fulfill their needs for intimacy, for companionship, and things like that. But in Russia, girls from the very beginning of their lives, from the very early childhood, are kind of indoctrinated to put their value as a human, as a woman, into the dependence of if they have a family, which means a husband and kids. So, if you are just looking for a partnership, like truly equal or more or less equal, but without all of these super hard commitments like official marriage, stuff like that, you will have hard times because it's very, very important for, I would say, most women in Russia to have the stamp in passport, to be officially married, because they are taught that it's pumping up their status, even psychologically, well, also legally protecting them, their rights somehow, which is finally bullshit. Like, they are not that protected, but still they will expect you to marry them. It's super important for them. And to have kids, it's much more how to say that, propaganda, I'm not sure, but right now with new law that bans child-free propaganda in Russia, you understand that the culture, the government is trying to force the kind of mentality even more traditional into the women, even more traditional than it was before, that you must get married and you must have kids. And well, naturally, if everyone says that you are only worth and good and fulfilled as a woman if you have all of this, naturally the girls will be wanting these things. It's just how mass psychology works. So if you are not ready for such a hard commitments, well, probably you shouldn't be looking for a girlfriend in Russia or Belarus or Ukraine even, because these girls, women are very, very much family oriented in most of the cases, and they will expect from you to make them an offer to get married and to be not only a father, but to be a head of the family, which not only includes rights, but a lot of responsibilities. So, are you really ready for this kind of role? It's up to you to decide. But if, despite of all of these 5 reasons not to date Russian girls, you feel like, oh, but indeed these are reasons for me to date them, well, I mean, only you just go there and you will have high chances for a success. And I told all of this not to diminish, of course, Russian women. I think they are amazing, very kind and sweet, and you will be very lucky guy if you find your soulmate there, I think. So just, I will finish my video here, and be happy and go find your love, whatever it is. And if you already have it, just enjoy your life, and I'll see you in the next video.